Google My Business. What can we do to rank higher on Google? I thought it was an interesting fact that Brooke gave me this morning that 80% of people Google their agent before they use them. So how are we showing up? What efforts are we doing? And do we need to spend more time making better efforts on Google to make us look better, to put our stuff out there? So I have Brooke Volcourt on here. We've known each other for years. She actually works with my title company, All American Title, who I think is fantastic. She's the VP of, what is it? VP of
Business Development.
And also has a podcast. If you guys are not listening to this podcast, she has different people on, not just realtors, but just all different. And I really love that content. And tell us what that is in a second. It's the All American Dream podcast. I listen to it and I'm going to be on there soon. So that's going to be fun. But anyways, definitely knows a lot about this. And I wanted to have her on and really talk through things that we can do to increase our rankings, to increase what we're doing for Google My Business. So thank you for being on here, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me. While I was listening to you give your update this morning, I Googled everybody that was in this chat, and 62% of you don't have a Google My Business profile. And if you, so 62% of you don't. So that's a large majority of you do not have it. And you might be thinking, well, I think I have it. But what I really encourage you to do is to go and after this, Google yourself like on private browser or using your partner's phone or something like that. So then that way you can see what it looks like from an outside perspective. Because 62% of you guys didn't show up on Google My Business.
Yeah, so, that's huge. So can I ask you this?
Yes.
Does it really matter?
It absolutely matters. Like you mentioned, 80% of people, this was based off of homesnap.com. 80% of people are Googling you before they use you. And so whether that's you're reaching out to them as a lead, or even if they're your friend or family member, they still are going to Google you. They want to read your reviews. And, yes, your realtor profile, like your realtor.com profile may show up, or your brokerage website. But Google My Business allows you to show up on that right-hand side of the screen and have a snapshot of your business take up half of the Google listing. So your potential client isn't having to sort through the Google ads and all the other things that they have to look at when they're Googling you.
Okay, so let's talk about this because there's a lot to do as a realtor. I think sometimes we can get overwhelmed. I have to be on Facebook. I have to be on Instagram. I have to be all these things. So let's talk about the key things that we can do right now, like take notes and what we can do. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, right? So let's start off. What are the first things as far as setting things up?
Yes. So if you don't already have one, go to business.google.com or literally Google My Business, and then just follow the prompts from there. They make it really easy to just type in, all of your information, and then eventually they send you a postcard in the mail. So make sure that you have a good address on there. So then that way it verifies your listing. Do you have a question?
This is actually a big thing, guys, because a lot of us write our brokerages down and then it gets lost and we don't get that postcard. I've heard this a lot. So I don't know what the solution is there, but you got to make sure to get that postcard because you need that code, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And I would say just like use your, when it comes to EXP, I know your brokerage is in White Bear Lake. So then that's tricky because then you also don't want it to go somewhere that completely misrepresents what area that you serve and have that show up as your address. So I would say trust your gut, whether like Jamie said, sending it to your home or things like that. I would suggest that.
Yeah. And maybe you put on your home and then you switch it later what that address is. But okay, but you do need to get that card. Okay.
And one thing that Google cares about more than anything is that your name, address, and phone number are consistent everywhere. Because what it does is you enter in this information, and to make sure that you're legit, they cross-reference it with the website that you put on there. And, they look through what shows up on Google when somebody Googles you, and they look at all the things that have your name on it, and they make sure that that name and phone number, email address, everything is consistent.
Okay, so not just on Google, but on wherever else it is, Realtor.com, Zillow, anything that when you, so maybe we need to Google ourselves, figure out where that all is and make sure address and phone number are consistent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I can speak from experience, you guys, because my job is to reach out to real estate agents to get, you to work with All American Title. And it is impossible to find the majority of real estate agents' contact information. And I understand if you don't want a title gal hitting you up, and that's why you don't want all your information on there, but your client wants to be able to find you super easily. So making it accessible through Google My Business like that, is key, because then you can literally click on your phone immediately, like the call button. You don't have to like copy and paste the phone number from your website and put it into your, they make it super accessible. So another thing about Googling yourself, I would say, is see what pops up and make sure that you have all of the profiles on Realtor.com, on your brokerage website, on Zillow. Make sure all of that, everything that you put on your Google My Business profile, make sure it's also on these websites, because it just makes your online presence stronger.
Okay, got it. And then, you do it once, you figure out what they are, whether it's your, whatever you're saying about yourself, your description, and then you post it and make sure it's consistent across all platforms. Okay, so that's easy. Everyone can do that. Okay, that's easy. Talk about service areas.
So it'll ask you what your service areas are when you go through these prompts. So a lot of people get too broad and they'll put Minnesota, and that's way too broad. And I understand that maybe you are willing to drive from Duluth to Albert Lea, but make sure that you kind of hone in on a few different service areas that are really more specific to where you want to be focusing your business, because that way it's just more specialized when somebody searches for you, versus you showing up on the last page of Twin Cities Realtor.
Okay, got it. So I love that. So does that mean, though, do you know this? Does that mean name only 6 cities, or does that mean 15 is okay? Because I know on mine right now, mostly I'm Maple Grove, Plymouth, Dayton, I'm, Minnetonka, all these Western, but I do have on there, Minneapolis, I do have St. Louis, I have some of those other areas too. Is that okay? Or should you only pick like 5, or what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question, Kelly. And I don't know the data behind the amount. I just know that they recommend, like Google specifically recommends having specific service areas. But I would say like 15 is good, as long as they're specific cities, not like metropolitan areas.
Got it. Pick out your cities. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay, cool. Okay, so once we have that and you have your page, what are your recommendations beyond that?
So a lot of things, something that I really noticed on a lot of people that did that, 38% of you who did have a Google My Business profile, is a lot of you didn't have any images of yourself or of homes that you've sold, or even just like stock photos of homes. You can totally use stock photos of homes. But when I Google you, all that shows up is like a map of where it says that your address is. So it doesn't add any personality to it. So first of all, make sure you're adding a headshot, add behind the scenes photos of, your listings, add, team photos, even photos, and videos too. So you can add videos on there as well, if you have some sort of like bio video, or even a video of a listing that you've had.
Okay. Okay. So for images at first, so obviously we have our professional headshots and that. I am going to encourage anyone on my team, and we're going to do this too. I got to see what I have, but even like casual, not professional, but obviously, they can be out there, photos of you. I think it's the same as like for Instagram, like sometimes all the professional stuff, people see it, but they also want to see you. They want to see that you're a real person. I love the idea of video too. So I'm wondering, is there a limit to how much video, and what is your recommendation on video?
So there isn't, a limit to how much you can put on there, but the goal is a minimum of 10. Just I would have the more the merrier, because what happens as well is Google images. And no matter what you Google, whenever you Google something, it'll have, the Google ads first, and then it'll have, probably a website that's actually relevant to you. And then it'll have Google images all on that front page. So people aren't just seeing your images when they're Googling you and seeing your business profile. They're also seeing them when they're Googling specific things to find images of things.
I like that. Incorporating video. I really like that. Okay. So I can't help but wonder, because all of us, we can do this. Everyone can spend 2 hours, let's say, and do this. It might even only take an hour, right? Everyone can do this. So my question, Brooke, is, I was actually talking to Sam, my social media girls on here too. And we're wondering, like, we want to make an effort to do this more often. And maybe we do it every other day. Maybe we do it daily or whatever. Like, we're going to make an effort, just like our social media, to do this. But she brought up the whole bot system of it. Sam, maybe you can explain in a sec too, but how do we make sure they know, like, is it good to be, every 5 days, every 2 days, like random with it? Do we just need to do it once and it's up there, or do we need to check in weekly? Like, what are your recommendations on time?
That's a great question. I think right now, considering the majority of people watching don't have an established business profile, I would say, to not intimidate you, that it really is going to take like just an hour and a half investment of your time to get established. And that's great. And that is still better than the majority of agents in the state of Minnesota. So that's phenomenal. If you're wanting to take it to the next level, I really think it's about an hour of a day worth of effort, or not an hour a day, an hour a week even, because all you want to focus on after that is you want to focus on responding to reviews, requesting reviews, and then answering questions and answers. And we can get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, got it. But I think, okay, so that's great. So if you don't have one, obviously get it up. If you do, maybe you're spending, maybe you time block, or that's part of your system weekly to put something new up there. I know what we're going to start doing now that we're having this conversation is we're going to make sure our properties are up there coming soon, because that's a way that we can attract people. Everyone's looking for coming soon properties, right? So that stuff, we already have it designed, that can easily be part of our system. So I really like that. I think it has to be personal too. So I like the idea of photos of ourselves and videos of ourselves too. So I love that. Okay, good stuff.
So something that you can do before uploading your images to Google My Business is go to geoimager.com. Here, I can type it in the chat actually. Oh. And that allows you to tag your images by location before you put them in. And so when Google scans the contents of your business listing, it can see photos that are tagged, and it just ranks you higher on Google. Google is basically like they comb through everything to find everything throughout it.
So talk more about that geotagging, because we're not doing that. I love it. So do you know how many words you can use, and what are you using? Are you using Realtor, Maple Grove, Top Realtor, real estate, house for sale? What are you using?
Yeah, I think homes for sale, I would definitely be specific about the location. I would add even the zip code. I would add the city, the state. Another thing that you can do is, I know a lot of people right now, there's not a lot of inventory. And so people are renovating their homes after they buy them. You could do something about like renovation inspiration, things like that just rank you higher on the search engine when people are looking for those specific things.
Okay, so geotagging, is that on video too? Can you do that on video or just photos?
It just has to be a JPEG photo.
Okay, got it.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's a step further. That is a step further of taking these images. So maybe everyone takes a folder, you put your images in there, and then you geotag them.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. Okay. Okay, we talked about how often. Okay, so let's talk reviews. You brought up reviews. I used to spend a lot of time for my Facebook, because I'm like, okay, Facebook, at least I have them all there. They're in one spot, but not everyone sees that. So now I've switched that to Google. Like I want people to do Google first and then hopefully copy and paste to my Facebook. But what are your recommendations and how important are those reviews?
So what's interesting is if you, and we're talking about Google My Business today, so obviously that matters, the most, but if I looked you up on Bing, which is the search engine we have, Microsoft Bing, if you have Microsoft, if you're working like from a corporate computer, so some of your clients might be, having that, it will pull from Facebook as part of your reviews. Because Kelly, I see that you have more reviews on Facebook than you do on Google. It says you have 85 reviews on Facebook and 46 on Google. But when I'm looking as a consumer at those reviews, I'm not necessarily worried about I'm not really worried about whether they're Google reviews or Facebook. But the thing about having Google reviews is that, because it will tell you that you have reviews from Facebook, but the Google reviews are like highlighted in orange stars and the first thing that catches your attention.
So I think I'm switching that. My focus is now going to be, and obviously like I make this time, I need to make more time of making sure it's in my system of asking people to review me. And I'm noticing if I text them instead of email them, I'm getting a better response, and I'm sending them a quick link, and it doesn't, I'm telling them it can be short and sweet, but they really are mattering, it seems like.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share a little thing that my real estate agent did for me, which I thought was very impressive, is initially I gave him a review on Zillow because he sent me the Zillow link and was like, please leave me a review, which like, great, sure, I did. And then and I didn't, like, out of sight, out of mind, even though I had a good experience, I'm like, okay, I did my review for you. I didn't go to all the different sites and do that. Like I didn't go out of my way to leave reviews on all these different sites. So what he did is in a few months, he reached out to me via email with a link to Google, copied my review from Zillow so that all I had to do was copy and paste the review I already took the time to write and just click on the link, drop, paste, and done. And you could do that every few months with Zillow, Google, Facebook, any of those sites. And so I would start with Google, then go to Zillow, then go to Facebook.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, cool. Okay. And that's mattering. And also when they leave a review, can you respond to that? Can you say thank you? I'm assuming you can, and that matters.
Yes, it absolutely matters. It shows people that you're an active business, first of all. That's something that this stuff may sound extremely like obvious common sense, but if you're not active on your Google business profile, how do people know that you're still in business? So for example, I'm looking at Kelly's profile right now and it says updated by business 7 days ago. It shows that there's active updates and somebody managing this account, and it's not just sitting there. Like picture you're going to a restaurant and you Google the restaurant and they don't have a business thing on the side, like their business profile, like I've been talking about. You're like, okay, so then you look and you click on the link to go to the website. And like, if you don't find them on Google Maps, that's another benefit, is you do show up on Google Maps. But if you don't find them on Google Maps or they don't have any reviews, you're like, what, is this restaurant open? Or, you know what I mean?
I do. And I love it. And I'm looking at, okay, so Gina's on here. Gina just teamed up with a lender the other day and they're doing awesome videos. So part of what we do, like for me, when I do a video, I know my process. It's going on Instagram, it's going on Facebook, it might go on LinkedIn, it's going on YouTube, it's doing all the things. My next step, I think, is adding that on now to Google. And I'd encourage you guys, especially on my team, to be putting your stuff. If you're doing all this content, we have all this content, now add it to the next step. Now put it on Google, make sure you do the geotagging, for photos. I'm curious about video, if you can do that. I bet it's in the title. So you got to be careful what you maybe name things, because you can rank higher on that. But this to me is just another step. And what you just said, Brooke, I think is brilliant, is it says on mine, thank goodness, 7 days. But that just happened to be fortunate. I probably wasn't on there for a while before that, but we're going to take an effort now to do this and show up weekly. And I think that's important because Google is looking at, like you said, is this a business that's, are they still in business? Are they showing up? So I am going to make that an effort to show up more. Great content.
Absolutely. So are you ready for like the next level even kind of?
Yeah, absolutely.
So question and answers, it says like your main headline with buttons, website directions, contact, and then it has your reviews. And then it says like your locations, hours, phone number. Then it says questions and answers. And it's kind of like Instagram questions where people can ask you a question, but you can also ask yourself a question and you can answer questions that you've asked yourself. And I encourage everybody to do that. You don't have to wait for people to ask you a question, on there specifically from a customer. You can add in your own questions and answers. And something I really love about this is, for example, if I am on Kelly's, and I'm just using you as an example, Kelly, but if I'm like, okay, maybe I feel intimidated to call you because you have 46 reviews, and I'm like, oh, like, do I just call her, or do I need to book an appointment? Does she have an assistant I call? You could put something like that in your questions and answers to just reduce any sort of friction that a potential client may have with contacting you. Like, make it as easy as possible.
How do we know those questions to put in there? Because I want to do that. How do we know those questions?
So first of all, I would ask somebody not in the industry, like a friend or a partner or something like that, and have them gut check, like what are your questions as to a real estate agent from somebody not in the industry? Because, if you talk to real estate agents, you might get a little too in the weeds about specific questions that you might think are helpful, but as a regular consumer, people might not even have that thought. So what you can do also is it's answerthepublic.com. And Kelly, I don't know if you mentioned that you've used this website before, but you basically go in, and so answerthepublic.com, it says discover what people are asking about, and it's what people are searching on Google, and you can type in Minnesota real estate, and I search that, and it tells you what questions people are asking with those keywords. And so then that way you can kind of know if you answer those questions on your Google profile, it's going to show up more in the search history or the search.
I think that's brilliant. So we're going to do that today. We're going to do whatever you just said, answerthepublic.com, and figure out what those should be. And I love what you said, because we're thinking like real estate agents, like, what's your value proposition? People might be like, what? Like, who cares? I don't know. Maybe that is a good thing. What do you do different, or whatever that is? What areas do you service? Whatever that is. So we're going to do that for sure. I really like the idea of not waiting for those questions, of putting them on there in case somebody's like, they don't ask, but maybe they just read through them. Do you have an idea of how many we should put on there?
I would say I would have a minimum of 3. So then that way they show up on the profile, and it shows like you have like, a bulk of content kind of. It's not just like one question and you're covering a few bases, but you can have as many questions on there as you want. If you're feeling, go crazy with it. With Google, there isn't ever too much, because all they want is more data for their search.
Okay, cool. Is there anyone, I'm going to do a search, and I'm going to find rock star agents who are doing this well. And I want to see what their Q&A, do they have photos? Do they have video? Like, what are they doing? So I'm going to do that. But is anyone standing out on your radar that is doing this well that we can peek at? Not necessarily.
I actually don't have anybody that I can think of off the top of my head that is doing it super crazy. I mean, Taya has over 60 reviews on her Google business, which is astronomical. Like, for example, like Chris Lindahl, he has over 1,000 5-star reviews. Like, that's insanity, and that's like his whole brokerage. But he's not doing anything spectacular on there other than the reviews, so there's nobody that sticks out to me that's like being different and creative on there.
And that's what I think is the key thing, that there's room here. Like, there is room here to stand out and be different. And this does not have to take a lot of time. And I'm going to do it myself. And I encourage, especially my team, show up weekly on here, post something weekly, have it be part of, if you're posting, I don't know about reels on there. I don't know, but do what works for you. If you're already creating content, put it on whatever you're doing, and then also put it on Google.
Absolutely. And with like YouTube videos too, I mean, YouTube is owned by Google, so they talk to each other. And if you're doing a lot of stuff on Google, you're just going to naturally show up more on YouTube because the company has more data on you and you're more of a legitimate presence. So they want to back you up versus somebody who's just like, is this person real? You know, like there's no picture, there's no address. It's kind of like, you guys, this is a weird comparison, but like dating apps, they verify you through your Facebook page and you can get like verified through your dating app. So people know you're not like catfishing them. That's kind of what it is with Google My Business, is it's like just verifying that you are who you say you are.
And I didn't realize what you just said. YouTube and Google are owned by the same company. And I am making a ton of efforts right now on YouTube to do trainings and things like that. And so that just totally makes sense. And for you agents out there, this to me is a huge thing that not everyone is taking time to do, that you could do and stand out and even literally spend, I don't know, 10 minutes a week once you get it going. YouTube is another one. YouTube is another one for agents of, you know, whatever that is, relocation traffic in this area or whatever it is. I think there's whole classes, and that's another tangent, but that's also untouched in Minnesota. So what are the things? Everyone's looking for clients. Everyone's looking, you know, hopefully to go above and beyond and do different things. This is one way, and not everyone is doing this right now. And when I'm on masterminds, guys, in other markets from people who are rock stars, they're talking about this, they're doing this, and all of a sudden they'll have success doing it, but then everyone figures it out and it dampens. So right now there's room in Minnesota to do this and own it.
I just think everybody on this chat or this, you know, session right now is obviously committed to growing their business and being a better agent. You are all very talented and the like cream of the crop, right? I'm honored to be here, but 62% of you didn't have a Google business page, and you guys are like the cream of the crop, and 2/3 of you didn't have it. So it's kind of like, if you're like, oh my gosh, right? Look at that. Like that's huge opportunity.
Huge. I agree. Yep.
And I'm very excited for all of you.
Yeah, we just all have to take the time. Don't go away and not do something. Like take some time and do it. Time block if you need to. Is there anything we haven't talked about? Like, I love that this was short and sweet. This is simple. This does not have to be complicated. Keep it simple, stupid, right? KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Doesn't have to be, but it can make a difference. Any last minute stuff before we wrap up?
Yeah, I really just want to say something in general about kind of your digital health, I guess I would call it, is I mentioned at the top, like, you know, go on private browser, Google yourself first, see what shows up, but really take some time out of your day, or I don't even know, you could probably recruit like your little sister or something like this to do it for you. But click through all of these profiles that mention your name. There might be profiles that list you, or websites that have you listed as an agent that you didn't even know you were listed because you didn't create the profile. They just kind of created it for you. But you are the author of your own story. So go on there, make sure that whenever somebody clicks on anything with your name on it, that it has accurate information, that they can find you, they know what makes you different, even if that's just like your short like mission statement, and like click through your website and the different links to make sure that they're not broken. I know it sounds so common sense, but like this happens all the time with even, you know, huge companies. As you go on a website and you click it and it says like web page not found, like just make sure that you have everything is healthy. Nothing's broken.
And it's so simple, like what you just said in the beginning, is you will Google realtors and you can't even find their number. Some of the stuff is super simple and just takes some time. So it's definitely worth it to do that, guys. Definitely worth it.
Another thing, this is also off topic, but just it's not really off topic, but something I found, and I want to like scream from the rooftops as somebody who tries to contact agents. And like, I'm saying, if I'm a potential client and I find your information on social media or Google or whatever it may be, if I call you and your voicemail box is full, like let's say I'm a potential client, crap, maybe you just lost me. Like, that's really scary. So just make sure also too that your voicemail box is deleted. Like, your deleted is deleted, your trash is empty, because that can affect whether or not people can contact you.
Oh, I need to delete my deleted.
Yeah, it's just like another like
Little.
digital health checkup.
Yeah, make sure people can get a hold of you.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay, cool. That was fantastic. Let's open this up for a Q&A. Any questions out there?
I have a question for you. So I've heard from a couple different things saying that, on your Google profile, you can have like products.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people say like for real estate agents to put like their new listings up as like a product under their Google My Business. So it'll be like the house, like pictures of the house, price, stuff like that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have not seen anybody do that. And so I think that's a great opportunity for growth. And I say you have nothing to lose by doing that. Mm-hmm. If you're listing it everywhere else, like, why not take the extra step and add it there?
Right.
That's a great question.
Okay. I love it being part of the system. Great question, Sam. I love that. And I think here's the deal. People aren't utilizing it huge right now. I would like to utilize that and take this over. So Sam, you and I will be collaborating. I love the idea of that being under products or whatever. Love it. With coming soons or for sales, not necessarily solds, right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Good stuff. Sam, anything else?
I just had one thought when we were talking about reviews. And I don't know if this is a question, but it's just a thought. Yes, it's great to have like 50 reviews or whatever, but like if I was going to look at someone's reviews and like, cool, they have 50, but what I would do is go find the one that was bad. So yeah, great, you have 50, but make sure you're responding to your reviews, because as like a normal person looking for an agent, I would be like, oh, what's their one bad review? Like, I'm going to look at that. I'm not going to look at all the good ones. So make sure you're responding to all of them, or at least like if you get a negative review.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I guess I've heard this too on other things. Don't freak out if you get a bad review. I've had one. It was a long time ago. And, but it shows that you're real and stuff too. So obviously I think it's, we got to ask people to do them, but don't be afraid if you get a bad one. But I think that's super interesting, Sam, but we got to get those reviews. And one thing I'll think that you said, Brooke, is there's some agents out there, not a lot, that have thousands. To me, I don't know. Is that intimidating? Is that like, super, I don't know. So don't be afraid if you don't have any to get it going and have 20 or 30, have some there.
Yeah. And honestly, you guys, this is cheating, but you can totally have your mom and your boyfriend leave you a review.
And your dog and all your things, yeah. Your people.
Exactly. Your sphere, even if they haven't bought, that's a nice thing. Zillow makes you answer whether or not you've worked together before, but Google doesn't. So you can totally just reach out to your sphere of influence and say, I really would love your support right now, just growing my online presence and profile. Could you please help me out? And think about the other people that are truly working with you, but aren't your clients. Okay. My title people, Brooke, people that I've worked with a title. What do you think about working with me? Lenders know my business. Absolutely. What about my stagers? What about my photographer? What is it like to work with me? And be genuine about it. I'm Kelly's photographer. She does amazing, but whatever it is, like, ask other people that that you're doing business with, your partners, ask them too. I need to do that. I'm going to write that down. Yes, yeah, I love that. Ask your partners and then also reciprocate too. Make sure that you're reciprocating. Totally reciprocate. Okay.
I have a question. This may be a silly question too. Do they have to have a Gmail to leave a review on your Google page?
Sometimes you have to log into your Google account to leave a page. I've actually never experienced an issue with this before because I've always had a Google account. My email address is through Yahoo, no shame. But
I have a Yahoo one too.
Most people have a Google account. I mean, who doesn't have an account to either YouTube, Google Docs, or Gmail? You know what I mean? Most people have at least an account to YouTube.
Sure.
So whatever you use to log into YouTube is what you use to log into Google.
Okay, so yeah, they probably do have to have some sort of an account to leave a review.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And then I had one more thought / question. So I've heard before that the time, like the hours that you're open on your Google My Business, we should all have them set to 24 hours, because if you have them like, I don't know, 8 to 5 or whatever, you're not going to show up in search. So I heard you need to have every day set to 24 hours. What do you think about that?
I love every day said 24 hours, because let's be real, somebody can send you an email at 1 o'clock in the morning if they want to work with you. I mean, and if you don't want that, if you actually don't want that, I understand like setting boundaries totally, but I would say like leave the door open a little bit when it comes to this. And maybe if you start to see people encroaching on your boundaries, then readjust. But I haven't heard any like horror stories of random people calling people off of Google at 1 a.m.
100%. I think this is great, Sam. I think that's strategic. Be open. So at least people contact you, even if it's, midnight or whatever, you get back to them the next morning. So I think that's good. Okay, Brooke, that was amazing. Stay on here for me. So Brooke with All American Title, don't forget, she does have a podcast, All American Dream Podcast, if you want to go on. And I'm going to be on there in a couple weeks. So that'll be fun. Brooke, stay on here for a sec. Okay.
Okay.